Hello.
Mic check, 1, 2. Mic check, one,
Hello.
two. Mic check, 1, 2.
Hello. Hello.
Yes.
Do you hear me? Hello.
I can hear you.
Can you hear me? It's Arlene.
Half a day.
Half a day. See Arlene. Hello.
Mic check 1 2. Mic check 1 2. Test. Mic check. Test.
Hello.
Hi, those on the Google Meets, can you hear me? Are we connected to the main the PA system? But how about the voice? So how does it get to Google Meet? So how about the audio? Because I thought for them to hear us. Okay. Yeah. We're gonna mute. But I record and connect all of that to here.
Hello. Hello.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Can you hear us on the Google Meets?
I can hear you.
Okay, thank you, Senator Dalio. PBS team, are we good? Can you hear us?
Hello.
Hi, Commissioner Dalio, you can hear me okay?
I can hear you.
Awesome. Okay. Commissioner, if you don't mind turning on your camera, and then the PBS team, if you confirm that you're coming through clear.
You know what? I'll come down. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I'm coming from Bergara.
Oh, okay, no worries. Just leave your camera off. No worries.
Okay, so sure, I'll get that thing back.
Yes, can you hear us okay? We're gonna get started.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Okay, before we call the meeting to order, I would like us to recite the addressing and go stand.
Dear President, you must takilog in a circle, must not talong in person, and you must speak unanimous. Who present myself, that I will protect, that I will defend, Ihinengi, Kutura, Iwenwagi, Ihana, Sanitano, Espidere, and Nasus, who have been lucky, Hilmi, Petia, Sanitander, Ibander, and Wapan. Viva Chola! Viva!
Mrs. Mossy, Commissioner Santos. Okay, the time is 1:11. I call this regular meeting of the Land Use Commission to order. We have public notices for today's meeting. For publication of Pacific Daily News on September 9th and September 15th, 2021. Notices were also posted online on the CHamoru Land Use website at dlm.guam.gov, the CHamoru Land Use Conference Facebook page, and the Government of Guam's public notice portal at notices.guam.gov. This meeting is being live streamed on the Land Use Commission's Facebook page and on YouTube at GovGuam Live. Our video and audio recording is made possible by our partners at KGT. Okay, roll call. Commissioner Regalia. We can confirm she is online. Commissioner Santos.
Senator,
Administrative Director Andrew Camacho. Attorney's off. Thank you. Attorney Top, if you can confirm we have one.
we do this.
Okay, thank you so much.
Announcements.
Okay, first item on the agenda is the approval of minutes for the August 19th, 2021 COTC regular meeting. All right, we give the commissioners a couple minutes to review.
I'm here listening. I'm here listening.
So Tina, I just wanted to just point out, obviously, prior to some spelling in grammatical. So just for one example, page 28. The last review says so that's the 150 lots we're proposing. Just proving. Just minor things, just discussing. Commissioner Cordelli, it's good if you're back. Can you hear us okay?
Mute now, Simon. Mute now, Simon, o go sa dialogue, please.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Pardon me, Commissioner Santos. Can you repeat?
Oh, check ka, ano na kaya ko ano matlo? Alag mo kinos?
I am coming over. I'm on Airport Road.
Okay, so I think are we okay to get her offline and just get her to safety here?
I think no, it's okay.
Okay. Okay. Oh, okay. Sana you don't have to be just listen, but don't look down your screen.
I can see you guys.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, great.
All right, we'll go ahead and we can proceed. Commissioner,
I think with the minutes,
yes, we're still on the minutes.
with the minutes, we can bring that back up when I get there.
Okay, that's good. So we can table the approval of the minutes.
Right,
And we can move on to the next item.
Yep.
Okay. We'll get back to it as soon as Commissioner Bernal. So we can continue with our discussions. So the next item on the agenda is an update on the null and void leases, as well as discussions on the dated SOPs for the adjudication of the null and voids. So Ms. Sadu, I'll pass this over to you.
Okay. Good afternoon, commissioners.
And Ms. Sadu,
So-
could you turn on your camera just so that we can see you, please?
Oh, sure.
Thank you, Mr.
Is my camera? Okay. Half a day, commissioners.
Okay.
Half the
Okay.
day.
So at the last, Day, Commissioner Berdalio. At the last board meeting, since then, still the number of cases being adjudicated, none were brought forth. But between that time and this time, Ms. Tapasnia, who's on the administration side, her and I have reviewed the files and have discovered there was actually 6 cases that were adjudicated that I did not claim it is. So the adjudicated cases for the null and void have increased to number 23, which brings down the cases waiting to be adjudicated to 81. So 23 plus 81 equals the total number of cases, which is 104.
Okay, and so that extra 6, Ms. Lydia, could you walk us through that? From the findings to, your
I'm sorry. Sir, hold on. Somebody's talking to me. I am physically there. Sorry. Is my camera on? Okay, there. Okay. I thought I clicked it. Wrong button. My apologies. Okay, so one of the things is because we have to do the follow-throughs. If we didn't follow through, then sometimes we didn't update the Google Drive. So in reviewing it, we have discovered that cases that were adjudicated, we never once did not do the follow-through. So now what we're trying to do is make sure follow-throughs are going forward. Therefore, the numbers have been are being corrected.
Thank you, Ms. Lydia.
And so,
Okay.
Ms. Lydia, could you walk us through from the can you hear me okay?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
You know what? Let me physically walk over, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Okay, mine's gone.
I'm here. Just in case you didn't notice. Okay. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you make it closer to your? Yes.
Okay. So can you repeat the question for
I
me?
was gonna say, with the addition of 6, right, from that have been adjudicated
Yes.
or identified as adjudicated,
Mhm.
could you just walk us through it? That's one of them.
Okay, so one of them, and I will use a case that I prepared that Mr. Henry actually presented, which was really much learning. He requested that it be removed from the null and void list simply because it didn't fit as one of the cases that should have been on the null and void case. So therefore, I never followed up with the memo to file requesting for it to be removed. So that's one of them.
So it was like an overlook or just an advising, like, well, an advisory from your top, and then you just didn't follow up.
Yes,
Okay.
it was a failure on my part as a
Thank you.
land agent that I need to do my follow through.
Thank you, Ms. Lydia.
Understood.
Okay, now when we look at the application, which is cases where applications made, no lease filed.
Hmm.
So we had, in reviewing, 3 applications were done correctly.
Hmm.
That they were applied within the law. 13 need to be reverted. It was either a transfer of application type or switch in transfer. So those need to be reverted. And then we had one case that was actually a transfer to a minor. So that needs to be reviewed further. So, and as far as cases that had leases in, that weren't ratified, I had discovered none of those in the cases. So overall, the total number of application files that have been reviewed is 17 with 126 prior, taking it us up to 140 files that have been reviewed.
By yourself, like just,
Yes.
and you are a part of, what do you oversee with an agency?
Also, I'm a land agent, but
Right.
So basically, I have to look at the files and see that the transfer of application rights, was it done within the law?
Okay.
Which is, was the person who transferred it, were they alive when they did it, or were they deceased? In addition to that, I need to double check that all the supporting documents were submitted correctly.
Okay.
To, as proof, as required by public law. Or if it was a switch and transfer, then that case can't be done. So basically, I'm confirming what was done correctly. And if it wasn't done within the timely manner, those also need to go before the board.
Thank you for that. Thank you.
And also remember, there was a period in time where cases where we were doing approval of transfer of application, but for a while, the board was not meeting, whether they didn't have enough board members or whatever. So those cases actually also need to come back, just to make sure that we can say, yes, it was board approved.
Thank you very much. That's knowledge for me. Thank you very much.
Okay. So that's the end. See you in a bit when I come up from that agent.
Thank you. Yes, if you don't mind just coming back to the table when you're.
Sure.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, so second to the cases in the that we discuss. Last meeting, we had more, we noted in the one that we condensed it so that we can have two different reviews and hopefully approve, if not, we continue to discuss. So we have an read the second option, or we're going to walk through the second option?
We're still in the process. I think it was really
Just to see. Okay,
Just trying to make it a little more comprehensive and get everything in there in one big spot instead of just kind of piecemeal.
yeah, you understand, because the goal is we have, we can address the remaining 81.
Right.
Okay, that's fine. Any questions on that?
What do you think about the one that's presented to us right now? That option.
I think it might be premature because I think the one that we're working on could potentially take care of possibly all of them, all of them, depending on its best or not.
Do you think it has anything related to, or with the option that's in front of us, we did get an amendment or a suggestion that if to take out if they were reimbursed, if they were not reimbursed and they were granted the right of entry, then the reimbursement will not be not be considered. How do you feel about that?
I think we can be right of entry and still be, and still not affect any potential future options. So I think that's fine to go forward with that option.
Right.
Because I think that doesn't impinge on anything we're doing positively or negatively, and it helps out constituents.
Okay, so are we going to table this as well? So we get the next one, okay, the other one.
Yeah, all right. So thank you for your comment. So we'll table this,
SOP.
the SOP to be decision, and then we'll get option, the second option for us to review, and then we can proceed with it in our next meeting. Okay. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to move on to our new business, which is our constituent matters, and we'll pass it over to Ms. Heidi. It is on. Ms. Heidi, can you hear me? You're on mute.
We're calling for the first case.
Okay, the first case is Isaias Tenorio A, and that would be presented by Jessica Dede.
Thank you. Ms. Jessica, will you be joining us?
Number yes, they can join. Thank you.
Congregation commissioners, I'm Jessica Day, a landowner for the Chamorro Ranchers Commission.
What is,
So the case I bring before you is Sias Tenorio A. The applicant's date and time is December 6, 1995, 12:19 p.m. His application number is 1,467. Application type is residential. He is a priority 1. He's not a preoccupier. And the complaint issue is no designated successor. The chronology on September 28, 2017, Sias Memorial A requested to transfer application rights to his niece, Sherilyn Sabella A. A notarized letter of relinquishment was dated September 26, 2017. On March 1st, 2018, Sherilyn Sabella A submitted a notarized TLTC application, qualifying documents, copy of her identification, and successor certificate. On March 1st, 2018, Johanna Kasem ran agent to interview Sherilyn Sabella A, and applicable information that was listed is Pam's birthplace, Pam's date of birth, and Sherilyn A put down her valid information, which was provided. Grandmother's information was also provided. Her employer's information was provided. She's not a land owner. There was a check on the tax roll. She's priority 1. Structure to be built is a 3-bedroom concrete. Household size is 2 adults, 2 children. The notes and remarks that was put on interview sheet is pending lot issuance for A. means applicant. And then on the checklist, applicant is admitted tomorrow. Applicant is not a CNMI citizen. All the documents that were submitted, applicant's birth certificate, parents' birth certificate, and then there was no further check necessary. Ms. A had designated a beneficiary and submitted their qualifying documents. On April 3rd, 2018, Deputy Director David Camacho approved the request to transfer application rights from the Sias Memorial A to Sherilyn Sabella A. On April 16, 2019, application rights was transferred from Memorial A to Sherilyn Sabella A. On April 16, 2018, Sherilyn Sabella A submitted a notarized recorded power of attorney. On April 20, 2018, land agent Johanna Kasem requested to input Sherilyn Sabella A on lot 16, block 3 REM, track 100C in Dedham. On April 2028, land agent requested for a lease and survey authorization for lot 16, block 3 REM, track 100C in Dedham. Maximum number is M05-S035, and that's in the file for reference. A residential, on April 24th, 2018, a residential lease was prepared and survey authorization for lot 16, block 3, REM, track 100C, Dedham, under Sherilyn Sabella A. On April 25th, 2018, Administrative Director Michael Warhoff signed residential lease and survey authorization. On May 4th, 2018, Sherilyn Sabella A signed the residential lease. On May 25th, 2018, the Administrative Director's signature was crossed out on the residential lease, which was signed on April 24th, 2018. That request was done by the Administrative Director, Michael Warhoff, to cross out his signature. On May 30, 2019, a staff report was compiled by staff for June 6, 2019 Board of Commissioners meeting. The complaint and the request was to review a pre-moratorium leasing transfer of application rights. On June 4, 2019, the Science Tutorial team submitted a letter requesting emergency transfer to Sherilyn to delegate for health reasons and requesting for the commission to approve the transfer. The health reasons are stated on the letter. On June 6, 2019, the Board of Commissioners approved the request to revert the application to a science MILP. June 6, 2019, a continuity of affinity relationship disclosure form was submitted. On June 23, 2020, Sheridan Amy submitted a notarized letter requesting successor claims to the application rights and the certificate of size to royalty. On September 2nd, 2020, Sheridan Amy submitted notarized CLPC application, affidavit of eligibility, successor designation form, marriage certificate, and copy of ID. So her name is now Sheridan Frank White. On my filing on April 3rd, 2018, the transfer of application rights from the science aid Sheridan Amy is not in accordance with Public Law 23-5.8. Mr. A was still alive. A residential lease was approved at administrative. Application was reverted back to a size A, but there was a pending interview to determine if a size A is priority one to move forward with the issuance of a residential lease. There was no follow-through on the part of the LTC. A size A requested to transfer application lease rights to Sheridan A due to health conditions. Mr. A also submitted in writing a request for the emergency transfer. Unfortunately, Mr. A passed away and he wasn't able to designate a successor. Sheridan A submitted in writing a request to be successor of a SIAS application. That request was submitted before the 100 days along with the death certificate. Sheridan A is the daughter of the SIAS so our request is to designate Ms. Sheridan Melanie A. Renquez to be the successor to the SIAS Memorial Day application rights under Public Law 23-38, Section 5.8.
Ms. A, who is the consanguinity form for?
For CLTC staff.
CLTC staff member that's employed right now.
Correct.
So, you see that throughout the report, I see that documents are notarized. However, on May 30,
Who's that talking?
sorry, that's on May 4. Isaiah to submitted another request to emergency transfer to Sharon allocate. They asked on how it was submitted.
It was mailed. It was mailed in. So at the time, Mr. A was on fire. That was the reason why he wasn't able to come back and do the designation.
When did he pass away?
April.
So I have a follow-up question to that. Was that letter notarized?
Yes. It was. I'm sorry, commissioners. I put it in. Mr. A passed away
April 27, 2020, is that correct? And you see in the report summary.
April 27, 2020.
And I just want to acknowledge that you see on our Google Meets, Chairman A is present. Ms. A, could you hear us? Could you confirm your minutes?
Yes, I can hear. It's just a little bit blurry, but I can hear.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mr. President. And you said this was within the 180 days, correct?
Correct. It's just that last year, we were going through the public health emergency and our office was not open at that time. That these documents were submitted, that we were informed that Mr. A had passed away.
April 27th.
Do you have the date when Mrs. Frank was submitted the request to be the successor?
June 23rd, 2020.
Ms. Data, can you explain on May 3rd, 2019, the complaint request review of pre-moratorium leases?
So those were the leases that were Xed out by the former administrative director. I'm really not sure why those leases were crossed out. All I know is that the switch and transfer of application rights was just not according to the law. But
Yeah, those were subsequent to the AG's opinion coming out, before some of them had been fully executed.
Okay. So this was a part of that, as they thought was a part of the moratorium the whole time. Understood. Thank you.
So just to confirm, I think just kind of follow through that is in 2018, there was an actual lease, is that correct?
correct.
And so then it was just crossed out, I guess, signature
Yes.
and crossed out. The prior administrative director,
Do we know why that was crossed out?
I did ask about it, but I was just told that he crossed out a bunch of his leases and there was a listing of it.
Yeah, those were part of the, same thing.
The moratorium?
The moratorium and combination with the null and voids too.
Okay.
So I think the request here is that, if there was a lease, it was voided, and before the board now is the option, because he's passed away, it's no longer under the status of a transfer of living rights. It's under the 5.8, if an applicant has died, it can go to a set family member as listed in 5.8, or the board has discretion to name a successor under subsection 1 if there are other applicants for succession. So it could fall under either one of those at this point.
On June 6, 2019, when this case was brought to the board, it was reverted back. However, an interview and research to be done to see if he was priority of the property. So that never went, that there was no follow through. It was supposed to go back before the board to give him the lease. And that never happened.
So, okay, so that's no longer now an issue.
That's not great.
Okay.
What's the number?
The fact whether or not if Mr. The deceased Mr. A.
For one. One, priority.
Priority.
That's not the issue, however, and when the research was done, and it showed that he wasn't on the tax roll.
Okay, I don't think I have any more questions. Mrs. Franquez, do you have any questions or comments for the commissioners?
I just wanted some clarity. It was kind of a little distorted on my end, so I just wanted to clarify. One, what is the next step on my end to do with this? I didn't hear, so if it was mentioned, I do apologize, but I didn't hear that a document was, because I had submitted a document for my great grandparents for the land takings from the US government. I also submitted the death certificate for my great grandmother and my great grandmother. I didn't hear that was mentioned either. And I also submitted a copy of the notarized letter from my uncle Asias, his surviving spouse, which is Faye A, requesting for his niece, which is myself, to take over the application right. This was submitted on, I believe, June of last year. And I just noticed I didn't hear any of that. So I was wondering if this is going to be an issue.
Ms. D?
No, everything was submitted, June 23rd, 2020. That's when she submitted, the request for successor fee and the death certificate, all of that was including the letter from Mr. A.
Right.
The qualifications, she did submit the letter for the 75A. Those were all submitted.
Okay, and everything checks out.
Yes.
So yes, so this Franquez, I think Ms. Day is confirming that all that has been received and your eligibility is checked out.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. I just wanted to verify if I need to resubmit the documents again, because I just didn't hear.
Okay, we're good. Okay, so from that perspective, the eligibility is confirmed and checks out. And so now I don't have any additional questions, but basically we, as the commissioners, need to approve that Mrs. Franquez is a successor to Mr. A for his application rights, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Now that's just for the application rights. I mean, then we continue the process.
Well, that's what I wanted to bring up was the lease. Because she was already issued, I mean, there was a lease in place. And yes, it was canceled or voided, but what happened then?
But can I interject? I wanted to ask another question. It says Ms. Sherlyn to the A submitted in 2018, April 16, 2018, Sherlyn to the A submitted no right for court power of attorney. Who was the power of attorney for now? If you don't mind me asking. Mrs. Franquez,
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
who was in 2018 you submitted notarized report of power of attorney. Who was your power of attorney for? Was it for your uncle?
I had, that was my dad who submitted it. He's my POA.
I'm sorry.
So when the application, when the approval to switch for her to have the application with, from Mr. A, when she submitted all her documents, she also, gave a power of attorney to her father. So at that time, the application, everything was already transferred to Ms. West. So she designated her successor, she did a power of attorney
Or
for her, not for Mr. Not for Mr. Simon's aid, for her. Yeah.
For her dad.
No, so her dad has power of attorney for her.
I mean, it's in here, I'm just wondering if it doesn't say power of attorney for, and everything else is, details, so that was missed. I just want to know why that wasn't stated for her dad, and not for us. I suppose the side to her, right, because her uncle. We want to make sure that everything is on point. We don't want to come back to this, there are too many of that already, so, power of attorney for her dad, what was it for her dad, for her, or
No,
what?
it's for her. She gave her dad power of attorney to speak on her behalf. So she, like, her dad can, come in and submit the documents, and put, sign for her
if needed.
if needed.
Okay.
She's the one that, gave power of attorney to her father to speak on her behalf.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification.
So, if lot 16, lot 3 remainder, that police available, 16 daily,
I have to find out to do a site inspection for that. It's subject to survey.
So I mean, at this juncture, I don't think that even if there was a lease already signed and was voided, that we would even entertain that as, I think that you can go begin the process over again. I don't want to necessarily take on that lease and, kind of hop over the process, even if there was one already there. Whatever reason that it was crossed out and it's again part of the moratorium, I think Commissioner, we probably, if we decide that we grant the successor as Mrs. Franquez, the process begins September 2.
So that's what Ms. Franquez was asking. What's the process? What's the next step?
Yeah, so Mrs. Franquez, the first step is that we make sure that the commissioners decide that you will to grant the designation of you as a successor, and then you work with Ms. Daly on the next steps. That's going to be step.
Thank you.
Any questions on that?
No, I have no questions.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, any additional questions on this? You want to go through the motion, Sam?
okay, I would like to make a motion that CHamoru, Maran, and was the successor to Messiah's belonging in disease. Application rights under public law 23 first reading.
Thank you, Commissioner Medallo. Will you get a second?
I second that motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Sanchez. Any objections? Okay, hearing none, motion passes that designates Shirley Melanie A. Franquez as a successor to Science Scenario A's application rights under Public Law 23-38, 5.1. Okay. Thank you, Ms. A, for your presence today.
Thank you, Ms. Day.
Thank you guys. You guys have a good day.
Thank
Enjoy the rest of your day.
Ms. A, and the next, what are the next steps on this? Yes, Ms. A.
Can you repeat that again? Did you say 5.8 or 5.1?
5.8.
Number 5.
Ms. Ali, next up, please.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Day.
Okay, next person is Rosalia Evangelista Guanzon, and it's by Joanna. Just to let you guys know, it's kind of muffled on my end over here. I can't really hear. It's really muffled.
Okay, where's the mic? This is kind of where I was going. I was not sure where. How does everyone hear us?
Everybody online? Can you hear us?
I'm struggling. I'm struggling with audio too.
You guys are speaking to her. The Zoom is speaking to this.
So we have to be louder.
Seems to be loud.
Joe, how did you do it the last time? We were listening back. Internet is so long because they were able to stream on their
So,
If
It's
I turn on
muffled.
my mic here,
It's muffled and
you
there's a lot of
won't hear those guys. And the screen could never connect to here.
That's how we're hearing them from the speakers over here.
That's why when she talks, she's very low because,
we can hear you.
yes, come back.
So do you have a mic here? There's no mic there. So everyone on the line, if you can hear me, we're gonna just take a quick pause to figure out our audio. So where's the mic? That was the question I was asking. I mean, where's the microphone for everyone to hear us?
Another
How does
mic.
it get to Google Meets?
Through one of the mics there, either in that system, because I can turn mine on.
Oh, there's a lot of feedback on that one.
That system.
Can you or our
I have the camera facing you guys, but then the audio comes from that side.
Okay, so we are speaking directly over there.
Yes.
And the all of the mics in this room is, how's this speaker? That speaker's there.
Can you ask, they can hear you?
Can y'all hear me?
If they can. Can they
Joey
talk?
can.
Can they talk?
Can somebody speak online, please?
I'm still having.
Ma'am, would you mind speaking?
Hello?
See, she's talking, we can't.
You're talking and you're very low.
Can't hear.
Miss Evangelista, would you mind maybe upping your mic volume?
Yes, I'm sorry, what was that?
So where's
That's so distorted.
You're hearing her from out there.
That's from Joey's room.
From the computers on.
the speakers now? You guys are on mute?
I have that, I need them.
No, we are. Oh, you muted him.
Yeah,
Oh, that's
they-
you mean us.
oh no, they run you guys. I don't run you.
I
guys.
mute you guys.
Oh, okay.
But he's
She
supposed
runs
to.
you.
Oh, no. Can you turn it on? Sorry, I meant mute us so we can handle it. Okay. So, Sandy, Mr. Evangelista, would you mind speaking again, please?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Oh, thank you. I can hear you, but not. How's the sound on our end to you?
It's a little distorted.
That's all.
Distorted. That's a difference with, that's different from not hearing. Okay,
I still don't know where the mic is, but we'll try this. Okay, so could you mute us when you're?
T, can you mute us?
Just get us on the mic.
That's just.
There's no sound now.
Yes.
There's no sound at all on our side. I only
No,
think sign languages. Their microphone is off. Is that why we can't hear them?
Their microphone is off. The microphone that Giovanni was using and Tina's off. They're both, no, they're, Tina's needs to be.
Okay. Okay, mic check. Can you guys hear us? Okay. Is it better? Keep it on, sir. Maybe the volume up on that end.
They can hear you now.
Good.
So that's what happened. But she's on.
But Tia, just turn your speakers. Okay. Okay, let's try this again. Can you guys, everyone on the Google Meet, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And it's not distorted anymore?
It's
Is it still distorted?
still a little distorted. Let me try putting my headphones on.
Okay. Okay, we're gonna try this. We'll try this again. Sorry, I'm gonna take a few minutes just to make sure that everyone online.
Voice is coming in echoey.
Say that one more time.
When you make it, when you're talking, you're echoey.
I have my headphones on.
Okay. So can you hear better?
Are we still muffled, Ms. Evangelista?
Yes,
Can you hear us clearly?
I can hear.
Okay.
Is it better?
On my end, it's a slight improvement, but still struggling to hear. But it's a little bit better.
Yeah, same here. A little bit better.
Okay.
This is how we were running it before. But we always had the mic. Because Tina was always with us.
All right, so I think we'll talk to this in the end. We're going to go over to the rest of it. All right, okay, let's move on. Sorry about that. We had to take a few minutes just so that everyone can hear us on the line. Hopefully it is a little bit better. I'm going to try and speak a little louder. So next up, Miss Eileen.
Eileen, you're up.
Rosalia Evangelista Gangzon, and that would be Joanna to present.
Oh, they got to bring her the mic.
Melissa Montague. This case is Miss Rosalia Evangelista Guanzon. She is deceased. We have her daughter, Miss Sandra Jean Evangelista, as one of the named successors, who is requesting to take over her mother's lease. So for her case here, there were two named successors on the designation of beneficiary. We have Ms. Guanzon, who was December 2nd applicant. She is number 240, residential, priority 1, not a pre-occupier. She was also issued a lease on a portion of lot 10122-R18 Veredale, or half an acre. On December 18th of 2001, a residential lease was issued to Rosalia Evangelista Guanzon and signed by Administrative Director Ronald E. Tian Jr. October 1st, 2009, Land Agent BG indicated that Ms. Guanzon is deceased and pending submission of documents from beneficiary. July 20, 2011, Ms. Sandra Jean Evangelista, daughter of Ms. Guanzon, followed up with CLTC in regards to her takeover. June 10th, 2021, Ms. Sandra Jean Evangelista,
request to take over her mother's COTC lease. A submission of an affidavit was submitted to the CHamoru Land Trust Commission for the request of takeover. Based on our findings, in regards to this case, within 23-38, section 5.8, transfer of application rights, an applicant may designate a relative qualified under the act to include husband and wife, children, widows, or widowers of the brothers and sister, or nieces and nephews to succeed the applicant's application rights upon the death of an applicant. Also under Public Law 23-38, Section 9.1, designation of successors, a lessee shall, upon execution of the lease, designate the person in whom lessee directs the interest in the tract to vest upon death. Such person must be qualified to succeed the CHamoru homelands provided by the Act and these rules. A lessee may elect to provide for the surrender of the lot upon death and may select a recipient for the proceeds from the surrender. A lessee's designation under this section may be changed at any time by the lessee. B, such designation shall be made specified in the Act, the right in the lessee to change the beneficiary at any time, if filed with approved by the Commission. Based on CHamoru Land Trust Commission SOP 2020-01, Section 4.2, beneficiary transfer of lessee. 3. If the official certificate of death or notarized written request of claim and legal transfer is not submitted within 180 days, it shall be subject to the approval of the Commission in accordance with the law. Based on CLTC Resolution 2018-08, ratified lease listing, Ms. Rosalia Evangelista Guanzon is listed on the ratified lease listing. Based on Directive 2019-02, survey lease issuance, Ms. Sandra Evangelista will need to fulfill her survey prior to an addendum issuance. To sum it all up, Ms. Guanzon was issued a lease back in 2001. However, it is with great regret that she was not able to occupy a piece of property because she simply didn't know where her lot was. Many years have passed and her daughter is now requesting to inherit the residential lease so she can pursue to build a foundation for herself and her family. Based on our rules and regulations, section 5.8A, a grandchild is not mentioned as a qualified takeover. Therefore, Sandra Jean Evangelista, the only child to Rosalia Evangelista Guanzon, would be the only qualified successor. With that being said, Ms. Evangelista has fulfilled all the requirements to be named as a successor to her mother's residential lease.
I'm just going over the rest of the report, if you don't mind.
Sure. Sure. I'm sorry, I thought you were, you were going to ask the question. Let me ask just one quick question, just to make sure I just to clear the clarification. So does this Ms. Evangelista is from an eligibility standpoint? Where does that where does she lie? 75 or 75 days?
She's under 75. Yes.
And so the task or the action for the board is to designate Ms. Gaidalista as the successor to the deceased Ms. Guazon.
Yes, sir.
And then, were there any conditions before this lease transfer the lease be?
She would have to complete a survey authorization or a survey. Right now, we're pending a lot issuance due to her mother's lease only being on a portion of. From my understanding, they are not aware exactly, where this lot may be. So, we have to allocate a property for her. I know that she did mention that, they would like to fulfill, to build a residential. So there are other possible options that we can offer to Ms. Sandra. Should she go through state one housing, we can offer her one of our non-dis properties that do have the infrastructure. So it's just a matter now of us, upon the approval of the board, we can go forward with the other necessary steps.
Okay. But ideally, I would want to make sure that
Maybe before we get the receive the request for successor within the 180 days.
Because there was already she was a named successor. Okay, so it's based on the SOP that the 180 days, so the 180 days actually surpassed. But this was a request that she's been coming to our office for the longest time. So she, worked with other land agents, but it's never been closed out. So that's why we advise her to write this request so that the board can approve her as the successor, because she is the only child. Her mom did name 3, but those are her 2 children who are the grandchild. So based on our 5.8, the grandchildren do not qualify.
Wait, those are the 2 of the 3 are the grandchildren.
So the 3 that are named is her and Miss Sanders' 2 kids.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So let me just clarify though, right? So we did in the facts that no designated successor. So I just want to be clear. Yeah. Did I, sorry, please disregard. She is a designated.
Yes, sir.
And no land use permit or survey map.
No, the lease that is in files indicates a portion of. So that's where we have older leases. They were supposed to have been given a certain lot, and then upon their survey, they would have been issued, an addendum to reflect that actual lot of survey. However, it didn't go that far, so we're still at a portion of.
Can we just make sure that it's a survey, either a registered property?
Of course.
Commissioners, any other questions? No, because there's no land yet. No land designated, so we're just going to do the, we should just do the designation of success.
Yes.
Terry, something you think to?
Just to comment, 5.8 wouldn't apply here because there was already a lease, so it just goes under 9.1 as far as designation of successors. So the board just has to issue between 3 as far as who would be the person to succeed, and it does make most likely
Okay, thank you, sir. I just wanted to read this.
Is there any on file? Yes. Is there the on file that we have for certificate of that?
Yes.
All right. And everything is within the law. Yes.
So I'm sorry, I just wanted to clarify that, right, attorney? So you mentioned the 9.1. So you're saying in this case it's a 9.1 versus a 5.8?
Correct, because when the original applicant passed, there was already a lease that was issued. So if the lease is issued, then 5.8 is out the window. It's all under 9.1.
Okay. Thank you.
Do you have any clarification on that?
Oh, right. Yes, thank you.
Okay, I have no further questions.
Just one more, just to make sure that we received that certificate before the 180 day. Yes, when did we receive that?
So that with the death certificate, yes, it was submitted, but with this case, as Attorney Tom validated, it's under a 9.1. So the 180 days, as indicated on the second page, was based on the SOP that previous director Hatzing put down as a board. So that's where I referred to that reference.
But it doesn't apply.
No.
Okay.
As long as we're within the parameters of the law. All right, I make a motion to designate Ms. Sandra Jean Evangelista as the successor of Rosalita Evangelista Ponzon. On lot, or, how would you say? That's it, right? Because then, okay.
Thank you. Any objections?
None.
All right, hearing none, the motion passes to designate Ms. Sandra Evangelista as the successor for Ms. Rosalia Evangelista Ponzon. Okay, thank you, Ms. Evangelista, for your presence. Do you have any questions or additional concerns? And we'll be working directly with Ms. Patton.
All right, thank you.
Okay, have a good day. Thank you for your presence.
Thank you, Ms. Evangelista.
But I have a question. Because what coming across versions of law
So that's it.
about the obligation
Yes.
and more than information to the government take care of survey those laws that are given out information.
Well, that's been discussed many times over the years, and a lot of it is just, part of it's been the cost of us doing preliminary surveys. Part of it is the land themselves. A lot of times there are pre-occupiers that are claiming pieces of land, and we don't know until we get out there sometimes what that is looking at. So with some of these larger lots and a lot of kind of pre-occupiers scattered around, what the practice has been is to allow the person to kind of find their, and also the topography of the land too. You know, sometimes it's, there's wetlands on the main road. We don't want to give them something that's completely non-buildable, and then we're back to square one again. So, in the interest of just kind of time and cost, it's been the practice to just have the person survey it out of the larger lot themselves. Long term, it would be wonderful if we could have the time, person, and the money to go out there and redo all this. And I think that has been the eventual plan. A lot of it is just getting the money into the survey and infrastructure fund, which, that's what commercial leases are designed to do, is to kind of lay the groundwork for that in the future.
Mr. Top, you might want to move your mic closer to your lips because.
I was talking, yeah, sorry, I just realized I'm
It's kind
talking
of
now,
awful.
my mic is over here.
Only because I can't hear the other side.
Okay, thank you.
But just real quick on that note though, there is a public law that does say that it's a prerequisite before lease issuance, that there is a recorded survey.
Thank you very much.
And that's why they get their 7 years tax exemption, because if they go government, they're taxed from the beginning. So if they go a survey, then they don't have to worry for 7 years. Especially if they build within the 1 year, because once the house is built, they'll be assessed a building tax, which actually has a tendency to be higher than the land value.
This information is through, thank you.
Okay, next up is Eileen for, let's say, this
It's me, she sent me over.
And go ahead, Ms. Sulu, thank you.
Okay,
Isabel, Byron is supposed to be presented by Dan, but due to unfortunate circumstances, Lydia is going to present the case.
and just so you know, the person who will be is online, and it's Victoria Camacho. So back in December, this case went before the board. And so the original applicant is Isabel Sahagan. When she had applied December 95, and then she had designated her granddaughter. So she passed away. It had been several years. Then the granddaughter came in to make her claim for her mother's application, or her grandmother's application. And because it was in that gray area, she had met with the director. We created a staff report, and I presented it on behalf of Eileen, who was on leave. So in part, I feel kind of at fault, because one of the questions that was asked was, do you recommend, or basically I was asked, the question is, are we asking for approval for her to be designated as the successor? While my personal opinion is, this is the wishes of the grandmother. However, public law does not support it. 5.8 limits it to the spouse, the children, and the widows and the widowers of the siblings. The SOP extends it, but the way I look at it is we have to refer back to public law. And even in the SOP, it doesn't include grandchildren. So while I sympathize with Ms. Camacho, I understand that if we need to rescind it because it doesn't follow the act, that's what it is. Because we need to look at the long-term effect. If she moves forward and she gets a lease, will it affect her? Will she be looked at in 10, 15 years? She will be on the null and void list. And because it's residential, if she gets a loan guarantee, if she has put all this effort into getting this property, building on it, only for us to have to pull it away, is that fair? So it's up to the board. Do they want to go ahead and continue to confirm the approval, naming her as the successor? Or will the board be rescinding the approval made in the December board meeting?
First, can I ask a quick question? Why is this being brought up right now?
Because
So to us, when one of the already be looking at it, there is a motion.
Right.
And
So when we as land agents, after the board meeting, we're supposed to take the minutes for the motion summary, and we need to submit it to the admin side for the file to be updated in the database. One of the things admin does is to make sure what we are doing is in accordance with the law. It's our backup system. It's the check and balance that we have.
yeah,
And in the past, we weren't doing that. So this is kind of one of the informal things that we've kind of implemented as land agents with the admin division to make sure how we're adjudicating cases or moving forward is done within the law.
right.
So this got kicked back to the land agents. Therefore, we need to resolve it.
Does Victoria, the husband, Camacho, no?
Yes, she did. She passed away.
So both grandmother and mom.
The grandmother passed away, but before she died, she designated her granddaughter, who is coming forward to make claim. We approved it. However, admin is saying you need to take it back to the board Grandchildren are not allowed under public law 23-38, section 5.8, to be designated as a successor. The only way that I can see us going about this is if the grandmother has children, like if Miss Victoria Camacho's father is still alive, he can make the request, even though it's after 180 days, if the board will allow him to make a claim for the mother's application rights, and he submits all his supporting documents, he can take over, and then upon his death, only then can it be legally transferred to Victoria. That is the only way I see the out on it, or other children of Victoria, other aunts or uncles of Victoria. If her father has siblings, they can make the claim. That is the only way I can see us moving forward on this. Other than that, as much as I really would like Victoria, and I would really like to fulfill her grandmother's wishes, my opinion doesn't matter. We have to follow the law.
Understand, I think that was Commissioner Bergavio's. I think that was Commissioner Bergavio's question is, there's a, for his father was to be, was a referee.
Yes.
So have we explored that?
I've been trying to get in touch with Victoria, but she's been busy, so she's on the line, so we might want to ask her that question.
I guess it's underscore Camacho.
Yes.
Can you hear us okay?
I can hear you, but I can't, it's a little muffled. Can you repeat the question?
You know, so Ms. Camacho, I was just we're curious, right? So given the fact that you know, this was passed, however, in accordance and you know, within the parameters of the law, we're back at the table. From a successor perspective, and just to be clear, so this is only the application.
Application.
Just the application. Okay. So Ms. Camacho, from your aunts and uncles, right, the children of your grandmother, is any of them around to be a designated successor?
So my father, Victor, he's the only child, which he's alive.
And is he still alive now?
Yes.
Okay. So, I mean, I think again, just going through the process, or just talking through this, we could, you know, there's options here, just so that the application doesn't necessarily die on the vine, right? Just to point that out. And is that an option? Would your father take the steps, necessary steps to claim him as a designated successor for your grandmother?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. And then Ms. Camacho, if you're able, are you able to turn on your camera?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Just for recording purposes. Okay. Thank you so much. Okay. So I think instead of us taking the next steps here to, and I'll just state this and then I'll ask Attorney Top if we're good with this, is that instead of rescinding our decision, is to take the necessary steps for your father to claim his claim as designated successor, so that we don't lose the application.
Okay.
Of your grandmother, right? And then, you know, wherever she falls in line, and your father, then we want to make sure we follow the process to have your father designate you as his successor. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Now, Attorney Top, do we need to still rescind the motion that designates Ms. Camacho as the beneficiary, and then just leave it as is?
If you wanted to, you could wait until the father makes
the claim.
Yes.
Okay. And that's what I was thinking. We could just leave it.
Kind of like table it,
Yes.
and then when the father comes in, we can prepare the staff report, because if it will be more than 180 days,
Yes.
then the board could rescind the December 28th, 2020 motion to name her the successor, and then name him the successor, and then we could also approve her as his successor.
Correct.
So
Table it for now.
table it for now,
Just so that it's not.
yes, and that way the application remains alive.
Okay. Yes. Okay, so Mr. Macho, we're gonna take those steps. Ms. Salu, you're gonna have to Ms. Salu to get through this process. And if it works out, we could definitely make these motions happen next week.
Okay.
All right, thanks, Mrs. Macho. We
All right,
appreciate
thank
your
you.
time.
Thank you, Ms. Macho. Thank you, Ms. Sulu.
Okay, so Commissioner, we just table this and we'll get Ms. Salu to help fix this, get it started.
To be presented again. Right. Okay.
Most likely, Glenn will be back, so you can take that.
Okay,
Thank you, Ms. Sulu.
I'm actually gonna stay here because I'm presenting.
All right, great.
Okay, so next up, we have, I believe, this, I think I'll pass it to you.
Jamie Bass.
So I'm gonna ask, to bring in the whiteboard because if you remember this case, this is kind of a complicated case, so I think if I draw it out, we'll be able to understand it, okay?
Oh,
Please bear in mind, I am not an art major, nor am I an artist. So please-
yes, there is. Yes, Lulu.
Mr. Bass, thank you for joining us today again. Appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to the case.
So at one point,
Oh, just so for. Yes.
Okay, thanks, Ms. Sulu.
okay, so we had a lease that was issued to Mr. Bass. Lease A, near Okadu. So because the school was being created, Mr. Bass was being relocated. So instead of doing an addendum, relocating him, they issued lease B. But this still exists, not dead. Then, because the area that he had originally had water and power, the commission agreed, or the director at the time agreed to do water and power, plus survey. A survey contract was drawn up, but never happened. There was never a report in that. In the meantime, the acreage on this is like over 6,000 square meters, when normally it should have been half. Should have only been 2,448 square meters. Now, because this lease never had a recorded survey map, at one point, DLM, or the Survey Division, had to place them on the master plan. So can you pull up the master plan that shows them where he's at?
Which was this?
The track 1022, Swamp Road?
1022 is from Rosen A.
No. It's where the master plan placed him, but he wasn't actually there.
Right. Which master plan is lease A?
No, master plan is lease B.
Okay.
Okay? So he is supposed to be at the end of a studio. Instead, we put him on Swamp Road with 7 buildings. So Mr. Bass is receiving property taxes. So if you look at your staff report, you'll see I put a breakdown on the land assessment and the building tax. Okay? So now, we took it to the board, and the board approved. By the way, sorry, this lease was board approved. It was ratified. Because this was the notarized lease. And basically, the board said everything done to get this lease was done within accordance to the law. All signatures there. So it was approved. This never was, but this still exists. So he's getting taxed now on buildings that he never put, on a lot that he's not occupying, that he's not supposed to be occupying. Okay, so we approved him to actually go to the lot where he's supposed to be. But he brought up water and power meters. Now, if we stick to the end of a circle where there's no water and there's no power, we have to bear the cost of bringing the water and power in. Reality, we can't afford to do that. So instead, I went looking for a lot where there is water and power on the Ghetto Street. So we found another lot where there's water and power. He was shown the lot. Through an email, he is requested to take over the lot. So now what we need to do is, we need to reverse what I requested we do and was approved. We need to undo my mistake. Okay? So this needs to be terminated.
Right.
This, we need to rescind the termination. Then we need to approve him to relocate to Alligator. And instead of doing the survey for the end of the school, we need to do the survey for Alligator. Okay?
Does Alligator, is Alligator surveyed in registry?
It is schemed out with water and power.
Okay,
So,
it's registered.
It's registered.
Okay. Right.
but
Not surveyed.
not surveyed, we have to bear the cost, because that's part of the agreement that we made with them originally.
And we're gonna rescind that.
No, we're going to rescind the request to survey the Astumbo lot
Yes.
and survey the cost for Alligator.
So Ms. Sue, just to be clear, with lease deed, right,
Uh-huh.
so going up your whiteboard, that was 6,000 square meters. This new relocated property in Alligator. No. Alligator, what's the size?
400, it's about half an acre, which is 2448, I believe. Oh, okay.
2023
Square
square
meters.
meters, yes.
Okay, so that's the half acres.
Yes. The only thing is, and I made Mr. Bass aware of this, because we are covering the cost, he's going to be assessed property taxes to the beginning, which is going to be on the 6,000 square meters that he notarized. So he has to bear that cost. If he has to pay those property taxes, if we do the survey.
So you had this discussion. with
I
Mr.
had
Bass,
this discussion with
He's
him.
in agreement.
Well, this is what we talked about, which is if we do the survey, he has to wait for survey to do it. We have to wait for approval from DLM. And then if it's approved, we have to wait for that to be done. Normally a survey will run you 9 to a year, right, for it to be completely done?
There's no real deadline or timeline. It's at the discretion of the survey department when they're available to do the survey.
No, but I'm talking for private, like if they were just gonna go hire somebody. You're looking at, because the field work's done rather quickly, is my understanding.
Yes.
It's when they go through the checks and balances within DLM.
Are you talking
that they-
about not getting checked? Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah, it varies, but it could be for 3 months to
To a year.
yeah.
yes, that's what I'm saying. So that's the process he's looking at. So I gave him the option, I let him know, if you go with us, you'll be assessed back taxes. If you decide to do it on your own, you won't be assessed back taxes, but you're gonna come out of pocket. So you need to decide what
For
you
the
want to do.
survey.
Right. So what Mr. Bass asked in my conversation, and he can confirm it, is he asked that we go ahead and approve him to cover the cost of the survey. He's willing to go ahead and pay, be liable for the back taxes all the way to the beginning of his lease on the 6,000 square meters. Not the building, because we need to send a letter to revenue and taxation saying they need to remove the building taxes, because that's not the lot he's occupying. The lot he has no buildings on. And then he wants to know, is it okay if we move forward with the government survey, but if before DLM approves it or starts the work, if he comes up with the money, can we rescind the offer and then go ahead and say, no, you're gonna survey at your cost and you don't have to pay. You'll still get the 7 years. He's willing to, he wants a government survey, but at some point in the future, he wins the lottery and he has the money to pay for the survey costs. He wants to know if he can pull it back, the request. Therefore, he'll probably get his survey done before the time period and he'll keep his 7 years exemption. So I'm thinking, if we go ahead and move forward with the government survey, and then should next month, he said, no, I want to do it on my own, we can always take it back to the board, requesting that they rescind the offer to cover survey costs.
Mr. Bass, you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so, I mean, I definitely, appreciate your patience as we go through this and, you know, put some options out there. So what is your take, sir? What would you prefer? We, you know, as the commissioners, we want to write everything here, and then get you underway, right? So you can, officially enjoy the property, your new property. What's your take, sir? What would you want to do?
Well, thanks for asking, because I was going to bring it up. First of all, thanks, Miss Lydia, for all your hard work again. So as far as the relocation and the situation with the survey, that is 100% correct. In regards to the back taxes, I did have a question, because again, as Miss Lydia described it, she sort of simplified it, but it's a little bit more complicated. So with Lydia's presentation, Lot B is not where I ended up at. I was showed a different lot and showed markings, maps for that particular lot. And so there was some issues with that one. That's why nothing really happened. As a matter of fact, one of the issues was that I tried to go and get a mortgage through Guam Housing, and because the lot number still didn't match Lot B and the third lot that I was shown, I couldn't proceed with that. So I guess my request is, as far as back taxes go, I'm still trying to sort of wrap my head around what taxes am I going to be assessed on what property. So I understand procedurally the clock starts ticking on the assessment of taxes, but really Lot B still wasn't sort of settled, and to find out that Lot C didn't really exist. So I guess my request is, if there could be some kind of reconsideration as far as the taxes go and how I'm being assessed.
How does that work with that type of situation outside of the land trust? I mean, we don't deal with taxing for land, so, right? Is there a way we can verify this situation with revenue or?
So my understanding is the lot description that is on his lease, because there was never recorded survey maps, that lot actually maybe never got officially named somewhere. So at one point there was a lot given over from CHamoru Land Trust over to GPA. and there was a recorded survey map, and the lot description on it is the one that is on Jamie Bass's lot. So somewhere along the way, because the recorded map never got done, lot C ended up being going to GPA. Even though physically lot B existed there, it just had no name. And it's now known as the tract that we were going to relocate him to, which is tract 1113 block, a portion of lot 113 block, if I remember correctly. Let me just double check because I don't want to say the wrong thing. Block 16. So that, he was supposed to get a portion of that. That was supposed to be lot B. But they named it whatever lot, 10125-11 something that went over to GPA.
So ultimately, the existing lease that's I guess.
That was ratified.
Yeah, that was ratified with the property. What property is that?
That is tract 113, block 13, or 16, sorry, block 16.
And that's a 6,000 square meter.
Because he signed the lease for 6,000 square meters for the lot description that's there, but actually it's a lot description for a totally different lot.
April 15, 2010, lot 10125-11-4, that is over 6,385. Is that? What lot is that? Is that the B that he was supposed to be on?
That's the B that he was supposed to be on, but was never issued that name because there was no recorded survey map. So that lot description belongs to a totally separate lot, which is now in the inventory of GPA.
So on the lease today is a portion of tract 1113, block 16.
Yeah, that was the tract that we approved him to be relocated to. But because of the lack of water and power, and that we said we would put in his meters, it will bankrupt us kind of if we move forward with that. So the only solution I found was we need to relocate him to a lot that has water and power, minimizing our costs to the agency. Therefore, all we would have to do is cover what we originally agreed to was the installation of water and power meters, which is still gonna cost us some money, but it's not gonna cost us as much if we had to purchase power poles and water lines to get it.
So the lot to be transferred to and solidified is 10171-63-1.
Yes.
Correct, okay, great.
Yes.
Understand.
So Mr. Bass, I think to your question, which property tax does he get assessed?
He's getting assessed on the property that is on Swamp Road with 7 to 8 buildings.
But that's not what we want to pay.
No, the most he should pay is for the land tax, because that's what he agreed to. It's the building tax. If you look at the breakdown,
Yes.
that's the key.
So how do we draw the line and make sure that these building taxes is no longer or to be assessed to Mr. Bass and just the land? How do we work that?
We would either, Joey would have to write a letter to or we would have to send a letter over to Department of Land Management, to Revenue and Taxation, letting them know that he is not occupying nor has he a lease for that lot. He is actually on a separate lot. So we can either A, do an addendum for a portion of, have it, get that one recorded, and then they could begin doing the tax assessment on the lot he's supposed to be occupying. And once the recorded survey map is done, do another addendum, correcting, now updating the lot description as well as the lot size. And we can't do the addendum until a recorded survey map goes into effect. plus all the other conditions that are required of a lease for agricultural purposes, which is a recorded farm plan. The good news is, Mr. Bass is an employee of Department of Agriculture. So he should be able to do that. He's a farmer, you know, so he could probably, you know, get the certification. He'll pass our training course if he has to go that way. I mean, he'll probably teach it, but, but at this point, there are conditions that need to be met before we do the addendum. And when we talk about transferring a lot, one of the things an applicant or a lessee must do is they need to clear property taxes and land lease fees. So.
You just need to determine what is Mr. Bass to pay, clear him to pay.
Right. So, even though I understand what he's talking about, I do get his point. Unfortunately, the way I look at it is, he notarized and he accepted the conditions when he signed the lease. And I do understand how he feels, but this is what he agreed to. He agreed to property taxes. He agreed to the lot size. That's what he agreed to. But it is at the discretion of the board to say otherwise.
Well, I think so. I think the assessment is going to be what is fair and sense that it should be the land. But whatever they can state here right now, it should just be the land for however many years. And that's what Mr. Bass paid. Again, just speaking through and talking through. Secondly, is the the negotiation of we pay for the survey and he pays for the land taxes. And
yeah.
Versus swapping, he does a survey and the land taxes don't apply.
For the first 7 years.
Right, for 7 years. So Mr. Bass, I mean, we'll make sure that we clear this up as far as which tax assessment you would pay, if that's the route you would take, and then the survey is done by, we'll take care of the survey. Now, I mean, this is a lot of clearing up that needs to not only be done with the board to approve this, but also with land management, revenue tax, property tax. So we're gonna have to take this in steps, right? So Ms. Salu, so Mr. Bass, let me just wrap this up with Ms. Salu. So Ms. Salu, if we move forward today, the commission takes action ABC, which will not necessarily take into account the property taxes, correct? Because we don't know what he's going to pay.
Right.
Okay. Just want to make that.
Yes. Because we don't do the assessment. Revenue and taxation does the assessment.
Given what's been assessed, this is not what we want, Mr.
No, he should not be assessed for building taxes, because those aren't his buildings, and that's not the lot that he was supposed to be issued. It was simply, you have to look at the master plan as a jigsaw puzzle. They have all these leases which were the different pieces. The survey division had to go in and they had to place somebody. If they recorded the survey map, they knew, okay, you're gonna be over here in this corner. But if you were a portion of and you never got a survey map, now we have all these pieces. So they had to fit them all on the table. And then they had this one huge piece that was J.D. Bass, and they said, okay, we're gonna put him here with all these buildings, but he wasn't really there. So that's how we have to look at it.
Okay. We're gonna consult this. Right. So, Commissioner, any additional questions? Mr. Bass, let me turn it over to you. So we're gonna take a couple steps here today to try and fix this. Definitely, I think the property tax situation will have to be figured out before we determine what you should pay. And then at that point, when the amount comes out, you can decide whether or not you want to pay these taxes and have us do the survey, or you do the survey and then you will not be responsible for taxes up to 7 years. Does that sound fair?
Yeah, as far as yeah, that does sound fair. In I guess going back to what I request in your deliberations in considering my case is that again, I was put on lot B, which I did sign for, and I understand that sort of starts the clock on what my responsibilities are as far as land taxes go. But then I was also put on lot C, and lot C, I did not have an updated lease, which I was anticipating, which is what I requested for, and it just sort of died in the water there. So again, just please, if you could just let me know what I need to do to get this thing finally settled. But just to consider that in my eyes, I didn't have anything. I did sign for a lease, but I wasn't anywhere.
Understood, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no, and I understand that, right? So we've not yet even granted one item per se, right? And
Thank you.
so, however, right, there's the, what's leased, what's signed, et cetera. We'll have to make sure that we take all that into consideration. But I think, if there's no additional questions for clarification, we can start figuring this out. Okay. So, anything else, Mr. Vance?
No, I'm good. And again, just thank you everybody for listening to the case, and thanks for trying to help me get settled with all of this, and so I can move forward.
So, Mr. Bass, just so we're clear, right? Did you understand the chairman's question, or did you understand what he was talking about? With just having us square everything away, getting the figures, and then speaking with you again.
Yes, I guess to my understanding is that you, before the next step happens with surveying and all of that, that we'd first have to clarify what the back taxes are, if I'm understanding correctly.
Correct. Right. That's exactly it. Just give us a moment to get our figures aligned and then have a meeting with you.
Okay, I got that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vance.
Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Sui, so what could we clean up here?
For me, I think we need to approve it to be relocated to the lot, just approve it to be relocated to the Alligator lot. Alligator, my piece. And then we can do that. We may need to rescind the termination of the ratified lease and terminate the Okudu lease. We need to pull back the termination of lease B, and instead we need to terminate lot A, the Okudu lot. No, we did the reverse. What I requested for was the termination of the ratification lease and not the A. Right, because I looked at it as A was the first one, that's the lot size, that way it will clear up the property taxes or whatever. But it was once again the admin division coming to the rescue, pointing out, this is the lease that is ratified. It is better you terminate the unratified lease, therefore we don't have to worry about him getting qualified under 75A, which is why there's checks and balances.
Yes. Okay. So in the requests, A through I, we will be working on A, B, and C, correct?
Yes.
And then we stop there. And then we stop.
And then rescind, and then go to terminate but we still need to terminate D. We still need to terminate the lease for A.
Okay, so up to D.
D, and then we need to do E, approve him to be relocated to the Alligator Street dot, and then
we stop there.
And then we can stop there. And then, because we need to find out from revenue and taxation what we need to do to get his property taxes corrected. And also, the board needs to decide, will you do as Mr. Bass is requesting, to go ahead and waive the property taxes for a lot that he never occupied, or do we stick to the fact that he signed a lease agreement and that's what he agreed to? So,
So we'll get to that, right?
Yes,
After we
right.
decide, after we figure out what these taxes are gonna be,
Right.
I think that's kind of where it'd be a good spot for Mr.
Yes,
Gas.
yeah, we need to table it pending whatever revenue and taxation says we need to do. And then take it back and get it to that point where his property taxes are corrected.
So A through E is where I feel comfortable for the board to consider. And then the rest we can table, as it deals with, tax assessments. Yes?
Yes, and then I'll work with Joey Cruz as to what we need to do from revenue and taxation based on what they say. If they say we need to do, this, and this, then we need to make sure we can do this, and this to correct the tax assessment.
Attorney Tom? You good with that?
Agree with that.
All right, thank you, sir. Okay, Commissioner, any other questions?
Oh, so will we approve the covering of the cost of the survey? Because if we do that, we need to let DLN know, because Pierce has to submit the request, and it has to include the request from the board.
But we're,
To do that.
yeah, but we're not at that juncture yet. Because we want to make Mr. Bass, we want to give options to Mr. Bass, whether or not he wants to go his way for the surveys and not us, or takes the route of us doing the surveys and then, yeah. So let's keep that separate for now. Unless, commissioners?
Well, I mean, I hear his point with him not being on lot. We have to take that into consideration. So none of this, really, any taxes is not taken to him, although he had gotten a lease. I mean, was anything surveyed?
No, because it was supposed to be done
Right,
on,
so
on
no
our
survey done, nothing was done. Right, but he's being charged this because it's, it was especially.
So that's, that one we'll pick back up. And we'll just kind of get more the rescinding and the relocation done.
Yes, with his.
And then we'll have an actual lease with the right lot.
Or we'll have an
Addendum.
addendum for the right lot. But we can't do the addendum until the survey is done.
But at least we're.
At least we are approved, so once we do get all that in, because then I will have to submit a memo to a request for survey authorization. And I have to prove that the board has approved the relocation. So I need to
And
follow
those
up.
are the immediate next steps.
Yes. Yes. Once you guys make your decision, I have to.
Okay, I'm comfortable with that. I think, let's just square that away and then we can deal with surveying and taxes. Well, Ms. Tulu can get that teed up and we can.
Ms. Tulu and Joey Cruz.
Yes, so just to clarify, we're just making an addendum for the lot.
A through E on our, packet. So the rescinding and then the relocation. Rescind and terminate.
When you set the law thing, that was the
Yes, in the April meeting, I approved that we keep that lot lease and we terminate lot lease B, but lot lease B is the ratified lease. So if we terminate that one, he's gotta redo everything. So therefore, it's best we just terminate the one that wasn't ratified. Yes, A. And the reason why I say we terminate the lease, even though they were kind of together, because we're under federal review. So I don't want the federal government walking in and looking at opening this file going, because he has two leases. According to your public law, he can only have one. Why does he have two existing leases for the same type? So we need to correct everything moving forward. So should the federal government ever walk in, or anybody walk in and request to review our files, we need to make sure that what we're doing moving forward is correct, and we have to correct the problems and the mistakes that were done in the past.
So, well, from lease A is then gonna put the other.
No, lease A, the Okadu lot, is the one that I'm requesting we terminate, because that was never board approved. Lease B, for the Asturgo lease, that is the one that was ratified, therefore it would be easier for Mr. Bass if we move forward on the ratified lease. And once we do the addendum, it will correct the lot size, so the taxes in moving forward, it will be assessed at the right acreage that he will be occupying.
All right, thank you. Got it, Mr. Liu, thank you. Okay, commissioners, any additional questions?
None.
Okay, I will be
First.
to make some action.
I would suggest you stay to the action, and then
Okay, so
Just
here-
take that time.
here's what we're, just to clarify for our listeners, what we're doing is we're gonna rescind the April 15, board approval of the transfer to a portion of tract 1113, block 16 in Dedidale for half an acre. And then we're going to rescind the April 15, 2021 approval to cover the costs of a recorded survey map for a portion of tract 1113, block 16 in Dedidale. Then we're going to rescind the April 15, 2021 approval for termination of the agricultural lease for lot 10125-11-1-4 in Dedidale, containing the 6,385 square meters. And then we're going to terminate the November 26, 2002 lease for a portion of lot 10120 in Dedidale, containing the half acre. And then that will allow us to relocate the transfer, or request to relocate the transfer from lots 10125-11-4 in Dedidale to lots 10171-63-1 in Dedidale for half acre. So changing the size from 6,385 square meters to the half acre, which is roughly 23 square meters.
Yes.
Okay. And that will clean the slate so that correct tax assessment will begin.
Yes.
But it will not clear existing taxes nor the agreement of who's doing so. Right. Okay, commissioners,
Does the attorney need to make the motion?
Don't be here.
Second, and third.
Just want to be reading through that, commissioners. I mean,
No, that's a lot, it's a lot.
it makes it very clear what exactly what we need to do and
Right. Rescind.
add on.
Alone. Correct.
My bad.
Okay.
Mr. Bass, did you hear all of that?
Yeah, I got it. It was a little bit hard to hear, but yeah, I got it. For the most part, I got it.
Thank you for your patience, sir.
No, thank you. Thanks for everybody for working on this.
First rescind. Let me square this away, because I was writing it, you were reading, and I was like, wait. You said 18 right? And I'm trying to figure out, like, what the 20, and then I'm trying to catch up with you. So we're rescinding B. The motion that we made for last was with B, correct? Yes. Okay, and that is in the summary or finding?
In the request, part 5.
Are you in the request page?
The last
That is
page.
my name. Come here.
Click.
Yes, I'm there. I was all like, findings?
What are you talking about?
Yeah, no, I was like, you know, I was like trying to get along with it. It was in my brain. Okay. For rescinderson, you said A to B, correct?
Yes.
All right, great. I'm there. We're there.
I make a motion to request, to rescind the April 15, 2021 approval to transfer a portion of tract 1113, lot 16 in Dedado for half acre for JDB lands.
Yes. Any objections?
None.
Hearing none, motion passes.
So that one's taken care of, right? So we have no lot, but lot A on his lease right now. After our motion, great. I make a motion to rescind the April 15th, 2021 approval to cover the cost of a recorded survey map for a portion of tract 1113, block 16 in Dedado for half an acre, effective November 30, 2007 for JDB.
Second. Any objections? Hearing none, motion passes.
And now we are going to
See.
see, this is the lot that he's supposed to be on, right?
Oh. I make a motion to rescind the April 15, 2021 approval for termination of agricultural lease for lot 1125-11-4 in Dedado containing an area of 6,385 square meters effective November 25th, 2002.
Thank you, Commissioner Medad. Any objections?
None.
Any objections, motion passes.
For the last lot. All right. I make a motion to terminate November 26, 2002 lease for a portion of lot 10120 in Dedado containing an area of half an acre for JDB.
Thank you. Any objections?
None.
Okay, motion passes.
Okay, here we go, dear. So we're this way. This one is for F, correct? E. Okay.
I make a motion to relocate the transfer from lot 10125-114 in Dedado containing an area of 6,385 square meters to lot 10171-63-1 in Dedado containing an area of half an acre.
Any objections? Okay, hearing none, no objections, and motion passes. Thank you. Ms. Salute, any questions or clarifications?
So that one's square good.
Okay. thank
So
you.
now it's just up to me to work with Joey, and then I also need to let, the admin side know that what we need to do is moving forward with termination, as well as updating the database for the pending lot, that he will be relocated to.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Salute.
Thank you.
Okay, and last one, Ms. Eileen.
Okay, the next one is Jose Tangriman Sanchez, and Joanna will be presenting.
Sorry. Yes, let's go.
Okay, thank you. So after this one, we will take our short break. Who's presenting on this one? Sorry, I missed it.
Joanna.
Are you want to start?
Okay, before you, I will be presenting Mr. Jose Tangriman Sanchez's case. He is deceased. So, this case actually went before the board twice. This went before the board in January of 2020, as well as December 2020 meeting. So in this situation, there was a change of an application type from A to R, add to res. And so even with this moving forward for the processing, because through admin side, they advise that the change of application type is not applicable. Therefore, we're bringing this back before the board to retain basically the original motion from the January meeting. But here we're requesting to rescind the motions that were made in the December 2020 meeting. So, and based on this, the January 16, 2020 meeting, the board approved for a conditional agricultural lease under Mr. Jose Tangriman Santos upon a completion of a survey plus submission of form plan,
within lot 10171-63 in the municipality of Dedado for 1 acre. In the December 2020 meeting, the Board of Commissioners approved the following motions. The first one is motion to rescind decision made by the board on January 16, 2020. The second one is motion to change application type from ag to res. And then third, the motion to issue a residential lease for a half acre on a portion of lot 10171-63 in Merida. Unfortunately, within this year, Mr. Santos has passed. His daughter, who was the main or is the main successor, did submit the documents to request to succeed her father's application. And so on the April 15th, as per the advisement of management, the changes of application type is not applicable by law. Therefore, all those that did a change of application type may subsequently need to be reverted back to its original status. And then also we requested, during the time frame of 2020 to scheme out that lot originally for Mr. Santos for the 1 acre to be schemed into the 2 lots, which is where Mr. Liddy presented the other side. This is where Mr. Santos has actually been utilizing for his farm activity since before his passing. So, and moving forward, as we go over our laws, there is nothing stated within our rules and regs, as well as Chapter 75, that an applicant or lessee can or can't change his or application type. Before Mr. Santos passed, he requested to obtain a residential lease due to his age. He wouldn't be able to continue farming on the area he was using to farm and use for livestock. The pandemic set us back, and we were unable to conclude the necessary steps for Mr. Santos to obtain his residential lease. Mr. Santos unfortunately passed away earlier this year, and his daughter is requesting to succeed the application and move forward in obtaining an agricultural lease. So we would like to keep the original motion based on the January 2020 board meeting. And then also based on the SOP 2020-001, Ms. Barbara Santos Blas as the main successor to Mr. Jose Pangilinan Santos. So even if we were to have moved forward with the residential, his successor wouldn't have qualified because she owns private property. And I did speak with Ms. Blas, and we went over everything that has gone, within the year. I'm not too sure if she is online, but I did speak with her, and she did advise that she may be online, maybe not, due to her. She's a teacher, so I don't think she is. But I did advise her that we will present the case to the board.
So, sorry. I just have a question. So in essence, it's going to remain, we're going to rescind the actions taken in December 2020, which means that it will keep the application as agriculture.
Yes.
And then we need to confirm that Ms. Barbara Santos Blas is the successor for Mr. Santos.
She is the successor.
All right. So do we need to do anything?
Well, it's because the 2020 December 2020 motions were to change the application type from ag to res, and we want to bring it back to its original application.
So that's the first one.
Yes.
To rescind December 2020 and keep as is the original.
The January 2020 motion. So the question there would be, because if on the January 2020 she was approved, or he was approved for an agricultural lease, which qualifies him under the 75. So we want to go back to that because that was the original motion made in January, being that it would be under qualified her under 75 versus the 75A. So that's a clarification for, Mr. Toft, you know.
I think we would just need a motion to rescind the action is made on December 20th, 2020, and that would cover it. And then she will be under chapter 75 and not 75A, and she will be
Proceeding process.
Yes, so, you know, that's what she, you know, she did, advise that, you know, should she not be able to qualify under 75A. But I did advise her that, you know, because this was the original, decision made by the board in January of 2020, that, it would just need our legal counsel to basically close that and indicate that, yes, she is gonna be qualified under 75. Because she was the main successor prior to the change of the law.
And it is a documented thing.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only thing is to just rescind the motion from December 2020.
For me, it said that no lease.
No lease.
Okay, just application.
Yes.
Did we receive any of the, did we receive a,
Notice of that he passed away, certificate of death.
when was that one submitted?
She submitted it about a month after the passing. He passed in February and we received it in April.
That's within the 180 days.
Yes.
But because the application,
The thing is, I don't have, I'm all about making sure that our people are going to be restored that justice. And if we can save this for him in his memory, because he did have her down as the successor, I'm all for it. It's just, we're still entertaining 1995, this one's 2007. It would still be in line, correct? They're saying that there's I mean, they live under man who's permanent already. Are we going to be, is this, so here's what I'm saying. There's 187, 151 in line right now, we're trying to get a hold of. Well, is this going to be already given a lease? Will this be given a lease already?
Because he's a land use permit holder, you know, and those, you know, with our LEPs, you know, if they're still on the property, then, you know, they would be, I want to say, grandfathered, right? Given that they went through the process also with our office, which is an application. So you are going to see a number of possible land use permittees who may be still alive, who their application dates are far off of the 95s,
Right.
but they're still on the property, like still utilizing it, farming. Yeah, so, you know, the request is to obtain a lease, so
Right.
that, you know, as an agricultural lessee. So.
For me, this one brings up a lot of issues, right? We're gonna have one too many of this. It's not unfamiliar to us already, right? People are occupying property, and they were told to occupy, just wait your turn, just go and squat on the land. It's honest truth. People are out there. Now it's a matter of,
I don't think he was squatting.
not necessarily squatting, I'm not saying that that's, but then you said there's a land use permit,
So
and
land use
people
permit,
are there.
land management, and that's where like CLTC came through and are basically took over the program. So you have a number who, some were December 2 applicants under the land use permit and were able to get a lease. Some were, like in his case, he's a 2007. In our law, it doesn't state that we could, you know, it doesn't say we could or couldn't give them a lease. It just says we couldn't evict them. So, in this case, if you guys are gonna go that route of he can stay there, remain there, but no lease will be given until his date and time, then I think that should apply to everybody else then, that, because we have so many of those who have come in requesting, right?
and they were issued leases and approved by the board as a pre-occupier.
That's what I'm saying, there's how many,
Yeah.
right? So when we address this, we're gonna come across more than likely the same thing more than once.
Yes.
So how do we want to make sure that we are within our lane, within the law, and making sure that if this is gonna be the decision for this one, that everybody else is saying that we don't treat it any different. You understand? Like if we make this decision or whatever decision we make, this is going to be the decision for every other account like this. So we just want to make sure our T's are crossed and our I's are dotted.
Well, at least for this one, it's just the application. There's no lease. Correct.
There was a plan of a lease issuance upon the completion of a farm plan, survey, workshop. So that was the January, motion.
January 2020.
Yes. So in here, I have the minutes from Commissioner Berdallo. I move a conditional agricultural lease for Mr. Jose Canley Santos upon completion of a survey plus submission of a farm plan on lot 10-171-63 in the municipality of Benedict for 1 acre. So that was the original motion. However, because of the laws, you wouldn't be able to obtain that 1 acre because it's already surpassed the agricultural law, and I believe it's the which one is that one again? Sorry. The 131. I can't recall the actual public law.
31-172.
31 dash, yeah. So in there it states that I think if it hadn't been approved prior to that public law, then they started at a half acre as a subsistence farmer.
Okay, so but that was in January 20.
Yes. So in the December motions, it was it was similar, but a change of application type. So that's where the based on that it wasn't applicable.
Okay, so and this is your case, right? This is the very beginning.
Yes. So should this be one where the board doesn't move forward with the lease, but he's able to remain there in terms of our lessee or our applicant, I guess, trying to obtain any utilities or anything, it will just be an in-house or in-office indication that this person is an occupant versus a lessee.
What's going on with the property now?
So currently, right now, there are fruit trees on the property. There is like a small piggery kind of thing, and then also they have like a small little shack on the property. So when I did speak to the successor, she does want to be able to keep, what dad has put on the property. And also I did, and for future, whoever would be the others, future successor, they would be able to keep the property and then, put down fruits, trees, farm, and, for the future.
There's other some laws. That the law is gonna be just half vacant.
Yes, we did, yes, I did explain that.
So, I want to state this, that in December, that was our first rodeo, right? That was our first meeting, or the chairman and myself. And within the law, with her for switching that application types, that's my fault. I'll take, that I did not know that we could not, right? So if we want to correct that, I guess, let's start there.
Right, just to make sure we're sort of,
Yes. Okay. I think that's the only motion. So you're going to rescind the application. that was done in December.
December 2020.
Yes. Okay. That's the or and that's the action I feel that the
Right, I agree. And we can touch base on, of course, what we need to know as a group, and what is making, what our team is making sure it's coming to us is legit, and we need to have a second look at it.
and so this came out of this came out of just to make sure that we're all
It was a throwback on that part in terms of that change in application type.
Good. Thank you. I don't know that.
So, in moving forward, if we are going to go by our current law, then it's, based on 6.4, it doesn't state that we have to issue a lease. It's indicated there regarding pre-occupiers, but it doesn't state that you have to issue a lease to a pre-occupier. And, so going by date and time, we would have to wait for an issuance of a lease until 2007 comes up. So, so we're not gonna retain that original motion, correct, from the January?
Here,
so we would have to edit that, right? Technically, right?
I mean, that's up to the board, right? Really before the board to request was to rescind the December 2020 motions.
Of our application.
Yes,
I have a question, okay.
and to rescind, well, so this, and December also had the motion within it to rescind the January 2020 action as well.
but did we take that into consideration? Did we, given those?
So the reason that January one was rescinded was twofold. One was that he was seeking residential because he could no longer do agricultural due to his ailing health. But two, also due to the size of the lot.
I have a question. Knowing that Ms. Barbara is a homeowner, and in order to qualify for agriculture, knowing we can allow that.
Yes, we could allow her to proceed with an agricultural lot of a half acre on the, essentially the family land.
She is a successor, right?
She's the successor. In order to do that, what I would suggest then is a motion to rescind the December 2020 motions, and then a motion to amend the January 16th, 2020 motion to make it a half acre instead of 1 acre. To bring it in.
So it's react.
Yeah, by rescinding the December one, it would bring it back to agriculture. And then we just need one more motion to change the stuff.
Okay.
I make a motion to rescind our December 2020 CLTC board meeting of the change of application type from agricultural to residential for Mr. Jose Pangilinan.
Can I get a second? Thank you. Any objections?
None.
Hearing none, motion passes to rescind the motion from December 2020. Okay, and then now we need to address the size.
Right.
To get it back to a half.
And this is on the lot as described. Mr. Lam?
Yes, so you, it would be within a portion of 10171-63.
I make a motion to change the size of lot 10171-63 in Dededo from an acre to half an acre or 8 units.
Give it a second. Any objections?
None.
Okay, hearing none, motion passes on the change of acreage from 1 acre to half acre. 10171-63 from Mr. Xavier Gonzalez.
Thank you.
Ms. Braithwaite, she's already a successor.
Okay. Anything else, Mr. Chairman?
That is it, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms.
Okay, so the time is 3:35. We'll take a quick 10-minute break and reconvene. We'll get into the next item on the agenda. Thank you. meeting. The financial report is going to be tabled. There are some changes and updates that need to be made, so we will move, we'll table that to our next meeting, move to the next item on the agenda, which is our agency report.
Noted. So public law 3654 authorized COTC an appropriation of $1,544,869 for fiscal year 2022. $1,027,749 will come from CLTC Provisions Fund. $92,824 will come from CLTC Survey Infrastructure Fund. $424,196 will come from the general fund.
That's our budget for fiscal year 2022.
That's correct. That's an increase from last. Second item, a cease and desist letter was issued regarding the mineral extraction activity from the Guam Racing Federation. The staff has determined that the Guam Racing Federation was conducting mineral extraction activity that exceeded the approved zone at the December 19, 2019 board. So we will make sure that we're in compliance before we proceed.
So we already sent the letter?
Correct.
That we're in compliance as in like the raceway?
Well, yeah, there are some things that are not in our records, such as beginning point total, I believe. So there are things that the raceway needs to provide. Also, there are some discrepancies, so we want to put all that out before any additional activity is allowed.
Okay.
So the next topic? I'm sorry? They agreed to. We met with Mr. Henry Simpson, and he agreed to stop activity until they can iron out what has been agreed upon and that he complies.
Good.
And this is just the mineral extraction.
That's correct.
Not any of the other activities within the raceway.
Just with regards to metal extraction.
All right, thank you.
Third item.
When, I'm sorry, when was that?
So that was
Cease and
just,
desist.
we met with him 2 days ago. So that was Tuesday. The letter was sent to him yesterday. So the agreement actually was Tuesday when he agreed to cease and desist. We actually did an inspection to obviously. We did an inspection yesterday and there was no. So he seems to be trained.
Good.
Thank you. Third item,
Can I ask one thing? That's what home. The removal of this,
correct.
Not the lease, the.
Right of entry. It's a right of entry. So we're gonna ask for a waiver for,
again, then,
well, I think he'll at some point have to come forward again.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Give explanations on that. Right.
But I mean, the right of entry was at time around, so before that expires. Because he was seeking the long-term lease with the legislature, and we weren't able to come to an agreement on it based on the terms that the legislature had required. So he was planning to go back to the legislature to seek an approval, but during that time,
We just,
to have a right of entry to
Yeah.
the
okay. Okay.
Thank you.
Third item to report on is that Joey and I also met with GICC regarding the reverse. The GICC will be submitting a payment plan addressing the reverse. So we're just hoping and hoping to be able to bring it to the board in our committee.
And GICC just confirmed the.
The next item, last week, the Office of the Attorney General informed me that they will be returning the last work request, one related to the MOU for legal services provided by AAG. The OAG will be absorbing the expenditures and will not be charging CLTC. The language in the FY 2021 Budget Act related to the legal services provided by the OAG reads the same in FY 2022 Budget Act. The only concern we have is timeliness, availability, and priority of the legal names of CLTC.
I think I'm glad you brought that up. So, Attorney Top, is that going to make an impact?
It's something we should probably discuss with the Attorney General. I think that's above my ability.
But right now, status quo.
Yeah, I would say at least through the end of the fiscal year.
Okay.
And then what we'll do is, I'll request for a meeting with, the OAG.
Yeah.
And, that's all I have.
Thank you. Commissioner, any questions?
How does this compare to last year?
We received an additional over $400,000, and that will allow us to, create new positions I'm hoping, and also, opening up other positions to support the loan agents. Also will, provide support to the administrative side of the house and survey. I'm hoping to add 2 additional positions to create a survey crew, so that we can get more of the surveys that done. CLTC.
Is that going to be in the strategic plan?
Yeah, so in light of that as well, we have the strategic plan that will be delivered to the commissioners. The goal is by the next meeting,
Right.
which will have some of the timelines associated to the budget dollars, the increasing budget dollars, but also a way to ensure that within the year, we make some strides in maximizing the appropriations that were made to the commission. And so the goal is, it's not just the first draft, and edits will be made, and then we circulate it again, and then it will present it.
Are you getting any money from this pandemic?
The American Rescue Plan. So we're not sure yet, and nor have we necessarily. Yeah. We hope that you do. I think from there's an opportunity for us to get some.
There's gonna be a lot of homeless.
I'm hoping that, unfortunately, this, housing is just not something we could do immediately. Unfortunately, do all this takes time, and I'm hoping that the things that we, passed in the last meeting with housing subdivisions and things like that will, help our residents.
Yeah, I leave that up to Angie to help steward, and whatever assistance she needs from the commission.
Yes.
Any other questions? All right, just to give Joey the opportunity, Mr. Cruz, any additional comments or questions from your side? Can I hear you, sir?
I'm just
To stay on the.
I think he has problems with his microphone.
Here's that, that's what he says.
So just any additional questions or comments for us from your side?
I found your mention.
We're good.
We're good?
And we're good.
Okay, all right. Just want to make sure.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you, Joey. Okay, commissioners, or somebody else, anything to add?
Nothing that.
Thank you, sir.
Minutes.
Then, yeah, let's go to the approval of minutes, just to go back to that item. Okay, so, up for approval of the August 19th, 2021 CLCC regular meeting minutes that we tabled, to allow for that medallion to, join us. So let's action item.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the August 19, 2021 CLTC regular meeting minutes, subject to grammatical correction.
Any objections?
None, sir.
Okay, hearing none, motion passes to approve the August 19, 2021 CLTC regular meeting minutes.
Thank you.
Okay, commissioners, and now it's our opportunity to, if for any additional questions or comments.
I wanted to ask a couple of questions from last meeting. Two that we did put upon Angie as well, just something with the procurement process for the affordable housing. And we mentioned that will that be also stated in the standard, the strategic plan that you will be presenting?
I'm quite sure we did discuss housing. And actually, it'll be there as part of the strategic plan. So, in general, yes.
Okay. Good. Thank you. There's one thing that I didn't want to, because within the past month, since our last meeting, I've had constituents come in and question the process. I did tell them, well, go in, and if you're just going to update it, it's got to be within the parameters of the law that things can be amended or exactly it depends on what exactly they wanted to change, right, in their application. But I did want to ask also is, I have been getting a lot of inquiries about movement within the line. And like I said last meeting too, this helps make it clear to everybody that we are working. That when we do say that the next in line, despite what we do have on our table right now with the null and void list and squaring that one away and amending it to adjust to the requirements, right? We are moving forward with the next in the line. So I'm not too sure if Ms. Eileen was going to do a report or what with that. Because we did ask last meeting if they could use Facebook as an outlet into outreach, right? Saying, okay, December, if we cannot put out personal information, we can be like, all right, we're on this date, and it's pretty much right away to this date, or what date we are on, right? Just to give that transparency or trust to be restored and recovered, right, within the agency. So if, right, this the next in the list, 187, 151, I don't know what number it is, I really want some clarification, please.
Okay, Sally, you want to come and join us? Okay, thank you.
Okay, can everybody hear me clear, or do I need to come over to the conference room?
No, you're very
Here.
Okay, so what had transpired between last meeting and this meeting is we had a total of 131 residential and 20 agriculture, which totaled up to 151 applicants. Out of that, 104 were contacted either via email, telephone, or we contacted the POA. And then 47 we were able to contact through their telephone numbers that are in file, emails, or any other ways of communication. And then what had happened was Ms. Therese merged the rest of the agriculture, and it started from December 2nd, 1995, 8:07 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. And we came up with a total of 187. So of that 187, we had tried to make contact, which I just mentioned earlier, the 104 plus the 47. When they merged it, we had an additional 36 agriculture applicants. And what with the 36, it came out to 36 agriculture applicants. 7 of them was switch and transfer, and the 29 remaining is assigned to Ms. Day Day to either try to contact them on whatever type of communication we have, whether it's telephone numbers, via email, or through a POA. And what we were suggesting is that if the board can approve for us to put it on Facebook, like Miss Commissioner Sanchez said, we can't put any type of information that's in regards to Privacy Act. So what we can do is probably put a general statement out saying that with the guidance of the board and the legal counsel, to put a general statement that anybody that applied on December 2nd would come in and update their contact numbers through telephone, make an appointment, or via email. And we have a Facebook page that is open to the public.
Yeah, I think if you make it general, and you just work with, work with Joey and we're gonna do just review what gets posted, then I think that should be fine, right? Just a general messaging. So let's go ahead and proceed with that first and see what that would yield. And then we can go from there. We can do the additional marketing for these.
So a total of that were contacted was how much?
47 out of the 100,
47.
out of the 151. But when we merged the agriculture with the time starting on December 2nd from 8:07 to 10:30, it came up to 187 total, with that 36 being added to the previous number that we had from last month.
So total from 187, 47 were contacted?
No, out of the 100, well, we still have to contact now the 36 that's remaining that was merged in with our 131 plus the 20 agriculture, which makes it 151. So we have 36 remaining to contact to complete this list that was merged from on December 2nd, 8:07 a.m. to 10:30 a.m.
That's 36 from 151. I mean, 47 from 151 were contacted.
We're not able to contact. 104 we were able to contact.
104 we were able to contact.
That's
That
correct.
was all avenues, mayors, mailing,
Yes, sir.
however
Yes,
else,
ma'am.
numbers, emails, next
Yes,
of kin.
ma'am.
Correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so 104 from 151.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Okay, anything further?
Yes.
I don't know who to direct this question is. What is our own inventory that belongs, then belongs to your name?
Total in our inventory. So Joey, you can answer that quicker than us looking through this. But what's in our total inventory today?
Do we also have any plan community that can be developed with more than just property? Meaning,
What's the question?
what's the total?
What's our total inventory?
Land inventory. Right now we have 11,666.88 acres in our inventory. 11,066. 11,666.88 acres. Acres, Joe? Yes.
And Senator Yada's follow-up question was on the planned housing developments per se. So I know in our oversight, right, there were some questions that we had, and it's more of addressing which properties are ready to go for that. And then the approval that we gave for the affordable housing last meeting, roughly three tracks that we could potentially, let's say, designate for some type of a larger housing project. So I'll pass it to Joey to give you some additional details.
Like the chairman mentioned, we've identified 3 parcels in the northern part of Guam. The first one that we have presented to the board for the approval to proceed with the affordable housing was tract 1123 in Chico, which is the tract parcel right across the Chico gym. That was chosen because of the location of the utilities like sewer, power, water. They run right along the eastern going to Paradise Meadows, and our property is located to the left and the right of that eastman. The other property that was identified, or that we potentially identified for affordable housing, but it hasn't been presented to the board yet, is lot 190
-1
which is located in Delhi, which is right across
Ironwood.
Estates. So the sewer infrastructure and water and power is within the immediate vicinity of that lot. The third lot is tract 10316, which is in Delhi also, and that is located.
It's the opposite side of Swamp Road.
Stamper Road.
Stamper Road.
Don't know that. Don't know that.
Swamp Road is right across Swamp Road, and it's Stamper Road.
And then we also have identified the phase 2 of the US subdivision, the land for the land subdivision. But the phase 2 does not have power and water or sewer within the phase, although it is at the end of phase 1. So only certain lots have the immediate connection to those.
When you say Lima,
This one.
The extension of EGA.
This one.
That's lot 8 in Inaraha. One thing good about it, it's been surveyed already. It's just power, water, utilities is about 200 feet away from the surveyed properties.
Then we also identified the extension of the FEMA subdivision, which is about another 40-50 lots.
Yeah, that's track 1113.
So we have multiple parcels of property where it would be financially feasible to install infrastructure such as sewer, power, and water. And as we move forward, there's other properties that we do have, but they're not registered yet. So we're working with Attorney Top also on the land registration.
So big chunk, right? That's getting ready.
That FEMA subdivision is right.
With the dollar house.
Dollar housing?
Second one.
Right behind it. The extension, yes. Right, just right across Stumbo Elementary Middle School. Yes.
Aside from our affordable housing projects, we've also identified other residential lots where constituents are not able to obtain a mortgage because of financial reasons. So there will be an alternative lot in the event that our constituents are next in line to process for lease. They may choose another lot within those other subdivisions that we designate for alternative lots.
Great. Thank you.
We're also simultaneously working to identify potential agriculture areas for our agriculture lessees. So simultaneously, we're working on the affordable housing, residential lots for our constituents who may not qualify for a mortgage, and also agriculture parcels where we can issue on agriculture leases. At the same time, too, we're doing our land inventory. So
There's multiple projects we're all working on at one time. But we will get it done. It's just a matter of time.
Excited for that.
Strategic plan.
And more
So,
scrap money. Not scrap money though. We can use it like daytime. So I'm excited about that.
Thank you.
You'll enjoy it.
anything else, commissioners?
Are there more than in the
Yes, ma'am. We have a lot of property in the south, although our challenge is the topography of the property. It's not like our property in the north where it's fairly level. In the south, there's a lot of mountain hills.
And you're unregistered. Most of the unregistered lands are in the south.
But we're
What
working
are
our way.
those government properties or are they properties that they're taken away from contracts?
There's CLTC properties in our inventory.
Okay, and
Are we gonna, I'm going to please bring up just about this meeting. Just one thing.
no, we're operating.
Can I just mention one thing? I do want to say thank you guys for everything that you do, you continue to do. Considering short staff and what needs to be done, what's on our plate right now, what we're looking forward to. Today was a good meeting. I do want to add that if we can please, before it does come to the commission, we make sure that everything is squared away. I know we have a review committee on that. So we're expecting a lot from you, please, in that sense, as to what is being brought to the commission. So, but other than that, thank you very much for your transparency and making things better to correct the wrongs from the past. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Commissioner Santos. And I did want to wrap up, right? So we do have a retiree who will be leaving the commission, Mr. Melvin Javier, who's had 31 years of service with the government of 133 years of service, 26 with DLM,
Yes.
and 5 years with CLTC. So, sir, we thank you so much for your service. We thank you so much for your expertise in helping here at the CLTC. Even if I've only been here a short period of time, right? I've seen a lot of great work you've helped with our land units. So thank you. When is your last day?
September 24th.
24th? Okay, so you still be, and I know that I'm sure that there'll be something that the department will do and will be here.
Yes.
But I just wanted to recognize this is his last meeting.
Sorry.
And we're sorry to hear, sorry. But definitely, we'll see you before your last day, but thank you again for your service. We'll take some volunteers.
Are you a private surveyor by any chance? No, sir?
Thank you very much.
So thank you.
Thank you.
Recognize
Thank
you
you.
in your last.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you so much.
Okay, and with that said, may I get a motion to adjourn? Maybe you do a speech in the. May I get a motion to?
She got the mic here.
I make the motion to adjourn.
May I get a second?
I second that motion, sir.
All right, any objection?
None.
Motion passes. We are adjourning 4:21.
San Juan City.
Thank you.
San Juan
So,
City.
in that